When looked at through the prism of licensed titles, Die Hard Arcade seems like some sort of weird fever dream, where John McClane is a SWAT team member launching into battle via helicopter who fights everyone from robots to firemen en route to save the president's daughter from a lead terrorist who is less Alan Rickman and more Hulk Hogan.
What you gonna do?
Honestly, the only thing connecting the game to the film is that the building vaguely looks like the Nakatomi Plaza and that the lead sort of looks like Bruce Willis if you squint really hard. Taken as a game itself though, of which I own the unlicensed Japanese title Dynamite Decker, Die Hard Arcade is one of my favourite beat-em-ups on the SEGA Saturn. The first thing that strikes you is the graphics. This was a game built for the SEGA STV board, an arcade machine using Saturn hardware, and it's astonishing how crisp, detailed and fluid the visuals are for a game that was first developed for the Saturn hardware in 1996. The characters look and move like those in Virtua Fighter, but there are several more on screen, with 2 player characters and loads of enemies. Textures are clean, and while it doesn't operate at the same high resolution mode as Virtua Fighter 2, it's higher than most 32-bit era titles. It doesn't skip a beat at a solid 30 frames per second, and in my opinion, it's one of the best looking games of that entire year. The sound is solid. The music is more additive than memorable, so you won't be walking around humming it, but it does a great job at producing the feel of a 1980s action movie. Sound effects are great too, every punch, kick and smack with a broom handle sounding impactful and satisfying. The voice work is cheesy B-movie fare, but it really just adds to the charm. The best part about Die Hard Arcade is how it plays. Imagine if Streets of Rage and Virtua Fighter had a beautiful baby. You have 3 buttons, just like the first 2 games in both of those series. In this case, it's punch, kick and jump. You use these buttons to perform Virtua Fighter style combos like punch, 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 kick. You can grab enemies by walking up to them like Streets of Rage. Pressing punch also picks up the nearest item, whether that's a health bonus or any other plethora of weapons. Yes, while you mainly use your fists and feet, you have a veritable arsenal at your fingertips, from knives to pipes to guns and even rocket launchers. Occasionally, when moving from section to section, you'll encounter a QuickTime event sequence, this being one of the earliest games credited for bringing it into the modern era. And that's pretty much it. There's loads of weapons and combos, plenty of enemies and set pieces, and it's tremendous fun, especially in 2-player. It can be tough though, especially with only 4 continues, but you can earn more by way of the bonus Sega classic Deep Scan. In fact, you can earn so many more, it does end up making the game too easy. Well, the first time I played Die Hard Arcade on the SEGA Saturn was on the Sega Flash demo disc, and I had to have the game thereafter. For me, it's one of the genre's very best.
Everyone loves Die Hard, a Hollywood classic, one man against an army of terrorists trying to seize control of a corporate building. It's also a pretty perfect backdrop for an arcade action game. Enter Die Hard Arcade, which takes the basic premise of the movie and turns it up to 11. But don't expect to be facing Carl or Hans in any boss battles here. Apart from the one-man army versus the world inside a skyscraper angle, that's as much Die Hard as you're going to get here. There's no Holly McClane to rescue. Or wait, is that Holly Gennaro? No, it's the president's daughter we're trying to save from Wolf Hongo and his gang. Known as Dynamite Decker in Japan, the game was developed by Sega AM1 and STI, released in Japanese arcades in 1996. Die Hard Arcade runs on the Sega Titan Video or STV arcade board, and as such it absolutely sings on the Saturn, where it arrived in early 1997. You take on the role of Bruno Dellinger, renamed John McClane in the Western release, and whatever you call him, he's clearly inspired by Bruce Willis's likeness and even ends up barefoot later in the game. Visuals are razor sharp, colourful and detailed, with both McClane and his adversaries brilliantly brought to polygonal life. Explosions fill the screen without a hint of slowdown, and the entire game moves fluidly, making for a thoroughly enjoyable experience. Sound is as you'd expect from an action title, with meaty gunfire and music which sets the scene appropriately, although you won't be rushing to Radio Sega to request any of the tracks. They're adequate, if not forgettable. Gameplay is where Die Hard Arcade comes into its own. It's a ton of fun. The controls are responsive and the moveset is reasonably deep for such a title. You can string punch and kick combos together and even engage in some Suplex City, similar to Axel in Streets of Rage. And while you won't be picking glass out your feet,
Glass? Who gives a shit about class?
or killing crooks with feet smaller than your sister. There are umpteen weapons to help you through the game, ranging from a humble broom to rocket launchers. Progressing through the game is simply a matter of clearing the current screen and wave of enemies, with the occasional quick-time event thrown in for good measure. Failing these results in a hilarious slow-motion clip of McClane missing his punch or kick, which puts you at a slight disadvantage when the fight resumes. It's a fun, action-packed arcade experience that every Sega Saturn owner should enjoy at least once, even if you could finish it before Hans Gruber hits the ground.